Hello and welcome to Burning Issues, the only program that provides you a glimpse inside the Wichita Fire Department. I'm Fire Marshal Brad Crisp, and in this episode we'll talk about cooking fires, careless smoking, and winter fire safety tips with Captain Brent Holman of the Wichita Fire Department's Heavy Rescue Specialty Team. So far this year, the city of Wichita has experienced 2 fire-related deaths, both of which occurred in people's homes. Both fire deaths were preventable and were the result of cigarettes not being properly disposed of. A working smoke alarm was not present at one of these horrific tragedies. During this time of year, people tend to spend more time indoors doing the things that we do. The more time we spend inside our homes and businesses, the more chance there are for something to go horribly wrong. During that time of year, we use space heaters, candles, fireplaces, and other heat-producing devices. Care and prevention need to be taken to ensure our homes are free of fire hazards, which could injure or worse yet, kill you or your loved ones. I would like to welcome Brent Holman back to Burning Issues. Brent, a 20-year veteran of the Wichita Fire Department, is still assigned to Station 4 down on South Meridian. Brent, thanks for coming back. And
thanks for having me, Brad.
Taking the time to come and talk to me and to the folks who watch our program about fire safety. We appreciate it. Cooking fires still continue to plague our community, and would like to spend some time with you talking about that. It's that time of year, people are at home, they're cooking. What are some of the basic things folks can do to keep our homes safe?
Well, I think that one of the biggest things they can do is stay in the kitchen with it. Most of the fires that get reported are due to unattended cooking. And if you just continue to stir that pot and stay with it, it has less of a chance of getting away from you.
Absolutely. So. I mean, it's easy to get distracted. The phone rings, or you hear one of the kids cry out from the bedroom or outside, and it's easy to get pulled away for just a few seconds.
It only takes a few seconds.
Turns into 5 minutes, and so one of the strategies people can take is if you had to leave the kitchen, turn it way down, right?
Sure. Turn it off completely.
Or turn it off completely.
That's kind of what we do. 10. That's kind of what we do at the stations too. We get, we're making dinner at the station. A lot of times we get called out on an alarm, and we'll shut it off completely before we leave.
Oh, well, you don't know how long.
If we forget, we'll call you to go back to the room and go there.
Yeah,
so we shut it off for us.
I mean, you don't know how long you're going to be gone for. And the phone can ring at home, or the kids can call out for some help in the bedroom with homework or something. You don't know how long you're going to get distracted for, and you're just better off turning that darn thing down or turning it off.
And if you are in the kitchen with it, have something close by, a lid to a pot, something like that. If it does get going, you can throw a lid on it and then get out of there.
Don't throw water on it.
Absolutely, it'll just make it mad. Just make it mad there. Right. And if there's a fire inside your stove, which happens from time to time, if there's a fire inside the stove, it's designed for that. Leave it closed. Turn it off. Leave the door shut.
You bet.
And it'll cool off eventually.
I mean, don't feel like you can't call 911 because you can.
Right.
If you really feel as though there's some danger involved, you can call 911. But man, if it's inside the stove, just
some quick action on your part can remedy that situation pretty quick.
There's other things that people do too. Sometimes they put mail on their stove. Sometimes they have paper towels or hand towels, dish towels too close. You got to keep that stuff away, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Any combustibles away from a heating surface. So and something too that's a real easy fix. If you've got any pots or pans on the stove, leave the handles towards the inside. Right. Some tough calls that we've made have been from toddlers reaching up, grabbing a handle of a pot off of a stove and pouring it on themselves. And that's a tragedy that could absolutely be prevented.
Yeah.
So.
Absolutely. Yeah. If you already talked about, if you do have a fire, you can throw a lid on there. Don't throw water on there, but you can also call 911. Get out and let the professionals like you come and take care of it.
If you get it early, you can snuff it out pretty quick. But if it's getting away from you at all, don't hesitate. Just get out, because once it gets up into the cabinets and stuff like that, it'll get rolling pretty good. Yeah. So.
Second leading cause of fire. Speaking of smoke and all those kinds of things that occur in a fire, smoking is something that causes fires. The second leading cause of fires in Wichita. Second leading cause of fires nationally. Let's talk about careless smoking. It's cold outside. People tend to stay inside instead of going
Right.
outside. What can folks do to keep their home and their property safe from an accidental fire from careless smoking?
Well, a little bit of common sense goes a long way, especially with their smoking utensils. You know, leaving a lighter on a coffee table is just inviting, especially a little kid,
Right.
to play with it. You know, we'll do the prevention thing, go out to the schools and stuff, and make sure the kids know that a lighter, it's a tool, it's not a toy. Nothing to play with, and a little fire turns into a big fire pretty dang quick.
Exactly.
So, but as far as their cigarette butts, their discarded things, carelessness right there can cost you your life.
Yeah.
You know, overflowing ashtrays, or they'll dump an ashtray in a trash can,
Right.
without making sure that the embers are cool. And that can get going pretty quick. You know, it's along the same lines as your barbecue grill.
Right.
If you're going to empty the coals out of it or out of your fireplace, you know, make sure that they're completely cool before you put them in the trash can or something like that.
And that takes days.
Oh,
I mean,
yeah.
we're not talking
Yeah,
a
definitely.
few minutes.
Yeah, we
We're
lost a
talking
garage.
hours and hours.
We lost a garage not too long ago. The guy's just the coals from his grill. He was just dumping them out back.
Right.
And it was like a day later
Yeah.
that it burned his garage down. So,
So, butt cans, cigarette ashtrays, write them down.
yeah,
Before you dispose
yeah,
of them in the
a
trash
little
can?
cup of water or something
Yep.
to put them in, just to make sure that they're out completely.
Right.
Completely. So,
Another thing that we see with discarding of cigarette butts is people putting them in planters on their back deck
yeah.
or on their
we make
patio.
a lot of the apartment fires we make are due to that.
Exactly.
And,
That's
you know,
one of the worst things you can put a cigarette butt into.
Absolutely, because you're putting it out in the combustible itself,
Right.
with the peat moss or
Yeah.
whatever,
Yeah.
mulch or
It's
something
not
like that.
just dirt. It's
Right.
There's other stuff in
Yeah,
there.
yeah. And well, with the apartments, some of those balconies are covered, and a fire gets going on one of those balconies. It's up in the soffit. Next thing you know, it's in the attic.
Exactly.
And we're really having to play catch up when it's in the attic.
Right.
So,
And the aftermath of that is probably about 16 families having to find a
oh,
new place to
definitely.
live.
Yeah,
and they've
everybody's
lost
going to get
their
evacuated on
stuff. And unfortunately, a lot of folks living in apartment complexes don't have insurance, and that
Right.
just makes a little harder on them.
that.
Life's a little
We'll
harder.
try to counsel them a little bit. You know, you can get a little bit of renter's insurance.
Yeah.
In the event that somebody around you is not being smart,
You bet.
you're at least you're covered. And
Yeah.
I think it's relatively cheap. Maybe
It is. It's about $150 a year.
that's not bad.
No.
To make sure you're covered.
Right. Because it may not be anything that you do. It may
Right.
be what your neighbor does.
Right.
You have no control
Right.
over what your neighbor does.
I know it.
Yeah.
I know it's tough. Along the same lines as the discarded cigarettes. Dry. We're in drought conditions.
Yep.
Unbelievable how many people just flick a cigarette butt out the window.
Right.
And we can tell where it starts. You know, in the shoulder next to the road. 9 times out of 10, it's a cigarette
butts
butt.
there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And the wind blows good in Kansas.
Yeah, it does.
Conditions right now are horrible.
Doesn't rain
Just
a whole lot
horrible.
lately. Yeah.
Well, I think that the Taco Bueno over on West Street, there was a cigarette butt in the mulch next to the building.
I see.
The wind blowing out of the south. It just
Up and out.
up and in, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So,
Well, there's those tips. Of course, there's some of the obvious ones as well. Don't smoke in bed, right? If you're on home O2, that's a disaster waiting to happen
Sure.
as well. If you happen to be smoking while you're on oxygen, you need to take that oxygen completely away from your body. Turn it off.
that oxygen
Have your
supports
cigarette.
the combustion
Yeah.
really, really well. And
Yeah.
that's unfortunate
Right.
when that happens. So,
Well, I know the 2 fatalities that have occurred this year were the result of careless smoking,
okay.
and that's just a completely preventable tragedy.
Did they fall asleep?
Yeah.
Some people
Yeah.
do that with, a cigarette butt, and they're in their chair or in bed and fall asleep and just drop it
right.
right there in their lap.
Yep.
So,
And then they become the source of ignition, and they wake up and they're already
Yeah,
behind
they-
the 8 ball.
yeah. Yeah.
So bad deal. Let's switch gears a little bit and talk a bit about home heating. There are options that people have for home heating. There's furnaces, central heat and air kind of deal. There's space heaters. Some people use natural gas. Some people use electricity, and those kinds of things. Well, there's some dangers associated with those.
Oh, absolutely. Just because it's heat source.
Right.
So there's a chance there. This time of the year, fireplaces are going. Wood stoves, things like that. One good recommendation is make sure you maintain a 3-foot clearance
You bet.
around all that stuff. But even prior to the 3-foot clearance, there's an ounce of prevention that helps out a ton, and that's if
You're
you
talking
get
about having an inspection?
getting inspected, your
Okay.
your heater, your fireplace flues, the chimneys. There's chimney sweeps out there. They'll come out, they'll make sure it's cleaned out, that it's in good working order. And even if you had it done the year before, you think maybe it's okay. Oh, it's summertime, maybe a bird got in there and made a nest.
Right.
And that is just, something ready to go up in flames on you.
Exactly.
So,
Well, there's creosote buildup inside of fireplaces that a lot of people don't see or recognize or even know about. That can wreak havoc in a fireplace. Sometimes houses settle, especially in dry conditions like this.
Yeah.
Foundations are settling, so brick mortar
separates,
joints crack. and
We're
that's
seeing a
inevitable.
lot of that this year with the drought conditions we've
Yep.
had. I know a lot of people are running their sprinkler systems way late
Yeah.
in the season, just not so much to take care of the grass, just keep the ground wet,
Yep.
keep their foundations in good shape.
Yep.
So
So it's really important to have those things inspected and have them clean. Fireplaces, furnaces. You have water heaters are
Yeah.
vented, and they need to be inspected.
sure.
Because again, they're heat sources.
And then again, around a water heater, there's some combustible stuff that goes
Right.
on, so
That 3
you
foot
want to
clearance is
keep that clearance.
very important.
And some of our older homes, there's wall-mounted furnaces, there's the floor furnaces.
Right.
You don't really think about it too much in the summertime. In the wintertime, when the first cold nights rolls around, that's where we see a spike in fires, when it first gets cold, and then when it gets really cold.
Right.
People do stuff to stay warm, and unfortunately there's a spike in fires in the wintertime.
Yeah.
But a floor furnace, for example, there's a throw rug on it during the summer, there's a couch that gets moved over to the top of it.
Right.
The first cold night, somebody turns the heater on and there's a couch on top of the floor furnace, and that really gets rolling.
Right.
So
Disaster.
yeah.
Space heaters can also be a problem. They're a little bit different in a furnace in that they're a little more portable. But there's still some distance rules with space heaters that we'd like to have people
Absolutely,
follow.
absolutely. The space heaters, follow the same 3-foot clearance, and
Right.
then with that, if you're filling them up with kerosene or any other kind of fuel, use the fuel that is designed for it. Maintain your clearance. But with the space heaters, they also kick out some carbon monoxide, and you want to make sure that things are vented very well. If you need to refill it, take it outside before you fill it up and let it cool.
Yeah.
If you spill the fuel out of it while that thing's hot, there's going to be a fire.
Right.
So,
Now the electric ones, you don't have to worry about carbon monoxide because they're electric and they have heating coils on them.
those elements.
Yeah, but you've got to keep those things 3 feet away from
Sure.
your covers, your pillows, your
Little
clothing.
kids with pajamas.
Right.
Yeah, things like that.
Sometimes,
stay away
even
from it.
pets can get too close to them or knock them over.
I know my dog's got too close to the chimenea on the back patio, and his tail was smoked.
Yeah.
So, he didn't quite. I caught it before he knew what was going on, but yeah.
Tragedy averted. But I mean, it's a good point. That
Yeah.
You've got to pay attention to those kinds of things because kids can get hurt, adults can get hurt,
Oh yeah.
our animals can get hurt.
Yeah, and anything like that's not good, but it seems like it's even tougher when it happens around the holidays. So.
Brent, before we finish off, I want to talk a little bit about general wintertime fire safety hazards. So I'm going to throw it to you first. Give folks a heads up on smoke alarms, stuff like that for me.
Well, your smoke detector, always good to, change the batteries in it when you change your clocks. Test them once a month. Make sure they're in good working order with smoke detectors or carbon monoxide detectors. Fireplace issues. Always, they're in use in the wintertime. Make sure that you've got a screen in front of it. It's a wood burner.
Right.
As far as like the Duraflame logs and stuff like that help things get going, read the directions on it. Make sure you're
There's
using it the right way.
instructions?
Yeah, there are instructions, and I think it says you're only supposed to use one of them at a time.
Right, not 4?
No, not 4, and you're not supposed to break them up.
Yeah.
Because you break them up, you're going to get some stuff on your hands. You go to light that, next thing you know, your hands
You're
are
on fire.
You're on fire
Right.
too. Yeah, absolutely. And pay attention to what's going on around you. Candles.
Right.
My goodness, this time of year they're really going. And
Hey, they put out a great smell.
Yeah.
They're kind of relaxing and all that stuff, but don't walk away and just leave them burning
right.
on the table or in
Right.
the windowsill.
The
Bad things
mantle,
can happen.
things like that.
Right.
We've seen a lot of fires that are caused by, I hate to blame cats, but
Yeah.
Cats knock candles
They
over.
knock them over. So do dogs.
Yeah. Yes, they do a good job
So
of
do
that
kids
too.
and blankets.
A lab's tail will clean off a coffee table.
Absolutely.
If you've got a candle on a coffee table, when that dog runs by, it might end up on the floor. Yeah.
Right. And even if it doesn't cause a fire, if the hot wax splashes on, your 3-year-old or your kid, that's going to be a significant injury.
Right. So this is a good time of year. Practice your exit drills from the home.
Right.
Make sure everybody knows where they're going to go, where we're going to meet. In the event, hopefully nothing happens. Probably it won't. But in the event that it does, we've got to be ready for that.
Right. If you practice your drill, get it outside, have a place where you're going to meet your mom or your dad or your kids, whatever that is, have that focal point. Because what's one of the first things you guys do when you pull up to a house fire?
Is everybody, we're making sure everybody's out.
Right.
Yeah, absolutely.
And there's no doubt you guys will put yourself in harm's way to save somebody else. And if there's nobody in there, then things do change a little bit.
Yeah, we relax just a little bit.
You bet.
Yeah,
you bet.
When we know nobody's in the house. So, but pulling up on scene and having some information like that given to us,
it's huge.
It helps out a lot. And then also making sure that once you are out of the house, do not go back in.
Right.
For any reason whatsoever.
Absolutely. Stay out. Get out and stay out.
Yeah.
What about extension cords?
Not good. Extension cords are, they're handy.
Yeah.
That's the good thing
but
about
they're for
them.
temporary use.
Absolutely.
Supposed to be.
Yeah, temporary use, and a lot of times they're not to the capacity of what's going through it.
Right.
So they have a tendency to fail, especially if they get wrapped around something, wadded up in a ball, something like that. They start a lot of fires. So
absolutely.
And people putting lights on their house, there's extension cords in use.
Yep.
Saw one on the news last night, some lights on a house where somebody had stapled through some of the cord and almost caught the guy's house on fire. He was really, really sharp to find that before something big happened.
Right. Yeah. The rule of thumb with Christmas lights is don't plug in more than 3 strands into one run.
Now there's some different ones now. Some of those LED, they say you can
string
run those out,
farther.
but the old style ones, especially like the C9, the big bulbs, I love those.
3 is the max.
But yeah, you got to be careful with them because they do carry a load.
And do avoid extension cords if you can help it at all, because those things they overheat and they go bad, and they could potentially cause a fire.
And if you do have to use an extension cord, use a big
heavy
one.
Duty one.
Heavy. Yeah, it helps out a lot.
What about slips, trips, ice? What are some things folks can do to prevent injuries that way?
Keep your sidewalks clear as much as possible. Businesses are required to do it.
Yep.
A lot of times at homes we don't do it. But if you fall down on the ice, it hurts.
Right.
And a lot of calls get made every year. We see broken hips, broken ankles, broken wrists, things like that. So a little bit of prevention there too. Being careful when you're walking on it. I know for my kids, my boys, they'll take off running across the ice like they're running on a basketball court, and next thing you know, down they go. So
exactly.
Yeah.
Good tips. I really appreciate you coming in, Brent.
Thanks for having me.
Always enjoy talking to you and getting some of the stories that you have to tell. They're always a lot of fun. So thanks a bunch for joining us. That concludes this episode of Burning Issues. Our mission is to provide our community excellent proactive fire and life safety services through prevention, education, and protection. Remember, Wichita firefighters are highly trained professionals who are your friends and neighbors. They are Wichita's bravest, and they're somewhere serving you every day.